Hello, today I'd like to talk about starting tomatoes from seed. We've actually done the bulk of our seed sowings now. We're the middle of March. We're doing a few more. Obviously in an amateur situation you may start your tomatoes a little bit earlier because you haven't got as good light or as good heat as we have got. But the basics are the same right the way through. So I'm actually only going to sow one variety. The variety I'm going to sow is gold medal. I'm going to just sow a few into a small pot because we literally only need a few for seed production and for our own annual trials. This is fresh seed compost in a 7cm pot. I'm just going to squeeze it down just so little. Doesn't need to be much firmer than that. As I say, fresh compost, important that it's fresh compost. Then there's less chance of disease, etc. Tomato seeds are very flat. I'm only going to pop a few onto my hand. As I say, a small pot like this, you can probably start about 10 seeds, something like that, if you wanted to. Just literally pop them in flat as they go. Make sure there's a little bit of space in between. They go in like that. Obviously if you're growing more of one variety you can go into a slip, or if you're growing lots more, go into a seed tray, which is obviously what we do when we're doing the varieties that we sell as plants. The next thing is to cover the seed. The important thing with tomato seed is that you don't over cover it. As I say, it's a very flat seed, very thin seed, and really you only just want to just cover the surface of the seed. So I'm going to sieve some compost onto the top of the pot. So the seed is literally just hidden from view. And once again, if you're using a tray or what have you, you would tamp that down as well, but I'll just dust it down with my finger like so. And that will now go onto our heated bed, and we're running our heated bed at the moment for tomatoes at about 24 Celsius, which is something like about 75 Fahrenheit. Obviously that'll get a drink. We've also got lights on at night, which obviously for the first few days doesn't matter, but once they start growing away it is important, otherwise the seedlings will elongate very quickly. And germination at those temperatures should take about 3 or 4 days, maybe a little bit longer, but after about 10 days you should have seedlings that are ready for pricking out. Now the important thing with tomatoes is that you do give them as good a light as you can, otherwise you'll end up with some very long seedlings that aren't an awful lot of use for pricking out. In actual fact, I've kept some here, and these are way past really being usable. As I say, we've deliberately kept them, and this is the sort of thing that would happen if you start your tomatoes too early, grow them quite warm but with poor light. They just get very tall. But funnily enough, tomatoes are what are known as stem rooting, so with something like that you could actually save that by pricking it out or transplanting it lower. So it's not the end of the world, but obviously if you start off with something that's dodgy, it's not the easiest thing. So moving on from there, these are actually some seeds that were sown fortnight ago, Monday, so they're just under 12 days old now, and these are about ready for pricking out. There's all sorts of varieties in this one tray. There's actually 28 varieties in this one tray, all the while we've started pricking some out. These are new varieties for us, and you can see that they're all started at the same time. Some of them are 1 inch, 2 inches tall, and some of them are literally sort of just off the compost surface, so it's quite interesting to see the growth rates are different even at this sort of stage. But from that, obviously they now need pricking out. That will go on to the heat in a minute. And to prick out tomatoes is quite easy. Obviously I'm going to start with a variety called Hawaiian pineapple. Most important thing, as is with anything when you're pricking out, is that you handle by the leaf only. I'm actually putting it on, resting it on my hand, the root, which is fine. But the most important thing is that you don't actually touch the stem, because you will crush that stem and more than likely put disease into the plant, or at least it's not going to grow away, or it might just die off basically. So there we are, and that's quite a tall one. And as I say, tomatoes are stem rooting, so that's going to go quite low, which is fine. And we're pricking those out, and that's into a pricking out compost, so there's a little bit more feed in this. And obviously I'm labelling each row with the different varieties. And then when finished, once again, they're going to be watered, and they're going to go back onto heat because we have got the space, but we're not going to go quite as hot. They're going to go onto a slightly cooler bed, which we're running at somewhere around about 65-70, so around about 18 degrees centigrade. The reason being is that obviously now we don't want them to romp away. I think I'll leave that one. Yeah, we don't want them to romp away because once again they're going to get leggy. The next time we touch these, we're going to be potting them up into a probably a 9 centimetre, which is a 3-inch pot, and we don't want ridiculously long tall seedlings. And once again they're going to go on light as well to give them added daylight, which will slow down their growth in that they won't be rushing to try and find light all the time. And that is basically it for sowing and pricking out tomatoes. And obviously with the clips that we did last year, I think that brings us right round to what you need to do for tomatoes.